We begin National 2 in National 2 East this week, where tabletoppers Tunbridge Julians made no mistake on their return to action as they made it 14 wins from the 15 matches they have played so far this season. They beat bottom of the table Worthing 45-17 at the Slade, but they were made to go through the gears in this one. Worthing landing punches in the first half and were only 24-17 behind just after half-time. But TJ showed their efficiency and their clinical edge to eventually pull away from Worthing. But the Raiders certainly gave the league leaders something to think about in this one, as did 11th place Sevenoaks away at second place Barnes. Now, Barnes ultimately won this game 2017, but Sevenoaks were absolutely stubborn in defence and did lead 10-5 at half-time, but 2 yellow cards after the break opened the door for Barnes, who, as we say, went on to win 2017 and secure the bonus point victory. So bonus point wins for both Tunbridge Julians and Barnes, and third place Dorking also followed suit in what was the game of the round in National 2 East when they travelled to Bury St Edmunds, because Dorking scored 3 tries in the final 11 minutes as a third place side snatched a 43-42 victory in Suffolk when Will Metcalf of Bury St Edmunds scored his hat-trick on 64 minutes to put the home side 42-24 in front. It looked for all the world like Jacob Ford's side were going to record another home victory, but not for the first time this season. Dorking showed their powers of recovery, and Henry Anscombe scored the decisive try in the last minute, which was coolly converted by Tom Hardwick to complete an absolutely remarkable comeback from Dorking at Bury St Edmunds. And Dorking have left it late against the likes of Barnes, your Westcombe Parks and Hammond this season, but that might just top the lot last weekend at Bury St Edmunds. But what it means for the league table in terms of the top half of the standings is that Dorking remain 8 points behind Tunbridge Julians after that bonus point success, with a game in hand which comes against Old Albanian at the end of February, while TJs also have a game in hand over Barnes, which comes next week against Sevenoaks. So a lot to be sorted out and tidied up over the next month towards the top of National 2 East. In the bottom half, Oxford Harlequins and Sevenoaks both picked up bonus points in round 16, while there were victories for both Henley Hawks and Old Albanian respectively. But going back to the title race, where yet again Dorking find themselves in the conversation towards the top, and the Red and Whites are our first feature club of the week on the National League Rugby preview show this week. Now, Dorking were promoted back into National 2 in 2022 after relegation from Level 4 in 2016. But since their promotion, the last 2 seasons, they finished in 3rd spot. So they are very much one of the leading sides in this division, and yet again this season that is absolutely the case. Now, Director of Rugby Armand Roux has a long affiliation with the club, having been a player, a former captain, and of course he is now the boss of Dorking. So with the Surrey-based side experiencing yet another strong season, and with a big few weeks coming up, starting with their home fixture against Henley Hawks on Saturday, we decided to catch up with Armand as well as club chairman Shaun Hammond. Armand, usually when we start these interviews, we start by reflecting on the season so far for teams, but we can't ignore the remarkable ending at Bury St Edmunds last weekend. We swapped texts actually last season about the tense games that Dorking were involved in last year, and it seems to have carried over into this season. So has the heart rate settled since Saturday afternoon?
Just about. I think there's a never say die attitude with the team we've got. So when we were over there and we were behind, I was always quite positive that we have the ability to come back, knowing we've got some previous record of doing so. So inevitably, just pleased to get the win over the line. You know, Bury played some cracking rugby, to be honest. So we had to dig deep to try and get that W.
Yeah, absolutely, Armand. And I guess, Shaun, as much as it's not great for the heart rate and then the nails of supporters, it just showed that Dorking are one of the entertaining teams to watch in National 2 East. So if anybody is thinking about getting down to Dorking between now and the end of the season, they're going to get value for money, surely.
I think so. We've had so many close games this season, and I think we've had three where we've won with the last play of the game. So it does make for excitement. But at my advancing age, I'm not sure I need it.
Are you having stern words with Armand then, Shaun, after every game?
No, we don't have stern words.
I guess though the bigger picture on a more serious note, Armand, is yes, you've been involved in these tight and dramatic games, which Shaun mentions there, your Western Parks, your Hammond's, etc. But what it has done is kept Dorking right in the mix in these top three places where you've seemed to have really settled over the last kind of 2.5 years. So that must be really pleasing to be in this position again, also with a couple of games in hand to boot.
Yeah, no, of course. I think you always look at the start of the season. You've got some sort of ambition that you want to go after, and there's standards as a club that we like to adhere to. And when we've got a group of a couple of new faces joining, it's always making sure everyone sort of understands the Dorking way of playing and how we like to sort of go about the business. So when these games are a bit tighter, we sort of galvanise ourselves a bit and push it through. So inevitably, we're in a place now where we would have loved to be, is to be in that top three again in the hunt for that top spot. So yeah, pleased for the games we have pulled through, to be honest with you. And there was one that got away with Canterbury at home. We missed the conversion at the end to win that game, and that's probably one that came back and bite us. So it swings and roundabouts.
Shaun, just to kind of rewind the clock back a little bit to when Dorking were promoted a couple of years ago, I think it was the first time they were back in National 2 for kind of 5 seasons. What was kind of the remit for you, the club, for Armand, when you were back in the league? Because ever since that first home game against Worthing a couple of years ago, Dorking don't seem to have looked back at all.
Yeah, I think we learned from the experience of our first entry into Nat two, and I think we paid the price for not being an aligned club, for having the administration and the playing and the coaching all aligned. So we were pretty convinced that's what we needed to do, having a clear understanding of what the objectives were and how we were going to get there, and getting the players buying into the culture. And yeah, with Armand being the conduit to that, we've been successful in our goals so far, and we'll see if we continue that success by the end of the season.
Is that culture as well, Armand, something that has been really key over the last 2.5 seasons or so? Because we've spoken to so many directors, rugby chairmen, players this season, and one of the words they've always used is, well, we want to enjoy our rugby, and that's what makes us successful. That's what makes us drive to these victories. And just reading a few interviews that you've done over the last couple of years, that culture and players really feeling like the part of the club has been key to that.
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, as someone who played at the time, I loved my rugby and enjoyed it. And the times I didn't enjoy my rugby was the times when there was maybe something wrong with the setup and how we went about our business. So learning, pulling on those learning that I had at that time, for me is now trying to implement a structure where, we all want to challenge ourselves and be better at what we're doing it every day. That's just the nature of who we are. But inevitably, enjoying it while we do it is quite important, because we want to make sure that we enjoy rugby, because we won't play rugby if we don't enjoy it, would we? So I think that's a massive component, and trying to echo that through the age groups while we're trying to develop everyone is just as important. You've got a club that's 1,500 strong, from a playing perspective, always trying to be aligned with the playing style and making sure the standards is of one that everyone can turn up and enjoy themselves while developing as well. So it's a fine act to balance some days, but inevitably everyone wants to come back and enjoy their time at the club, and I think that's really important for all of us at the club. So hopefully we can keep continuing that.
Yeah, and as a chairman, Shaun, that must make you extremely proud when, Armand rattles off those few statistics there about, so many players playing for Dorking. I know the senior Colts have enjoyed success in recent years. The women's section seems to be growing and growing. It must make you really proud when you step out into the club on a Saturday and you see such a thriving rugby club.
Well, in one respect, yes, but I think you don't want to get too complacent. So I think we always think, well, what can we incrementally do slightly better each year? And Armand's been good at challenging the board with those requests for improvements, and I think that's the whole club. I mean, it's lovely to see that we've got more members than we've ever had in the history of the club, and not all clubs could say that nowadays with the challenges, the macro challenges of rugby. But it is rewarding. But I say we don't want to be complacent. We want to keep driving forward and incrementally improving.
It shows a great attitude from Shaun and the rest of the board of the club, to sort of listen and sort of understand and try and implement, because we're all forward thinking as a club. So the fact that we are where we are now is not just down to me or Shaun, it's down to a collective of people at the club and how everyone's pulling in the same direction and seeing the bigger picture, really. And I think it's quite rewarding when you sometimes step back and see what you've achieved. But as Shaun said, we've got to keep improving. There's times like those when you just sit back and expect it to happen. That's when it's not going to happen. So you've got to keep working on it.
Yeah, and keep him working on it, Armand. I know we're talking about the whole club there, but I guess when you are in such a competitive league as National 2 East, you have to keep working hard. You can't really stand still, can you, in this division? And it seems over the last 2.5 years, Dorking haven't done that.
Yeah, no, exactly that. I think we've got a great coaching group down at the club. They analyse both our performance and the opposition's performance. Almost sometimes you think some players might not watch it all, but inevitably we're working towards what we want to try and achieve. And if we don't turn every stone to try and see where we can find the best angle to try and get a victory for the club, then we won't be doing our job. So yeah, I'm very grateful for the whole team we've got helping drive the senior section forward.
I think personally it's rewarding, but it's also very rewarding to see. Last week we had some of our older life members at the club who'd been members for 60, 70 years, and they sent me a letter this week and saying it's so great to see the club flourish, and they hadn't seen it like that, and they're in the 90s, some of these guys, and they're still strong supporters of the club, and that's rewarding to see that we've got multi-generational support.
Yeah, and I'm sure that multi-generational support will be turning out absolutely on Saturday for a much welcome home game, Armand, for you guys. Obviously, looking at the fixtures and due to postponements as well, I think it's only 4 home games you guys have played so far this season. So I guess you're all itching to get back to the big field on Saturday afternoon.
Oh, I cannot express so much. I think 6 of the next 9 games are home games for us as well. So it's quite nice to fill in some home fixtures. But yeah, it's going to be a tough test. Henley has quite a seasoned team at the national level. So for them to come to us, they beat us at home last year, and it's quite a sour taste in your mouth when you've got a team coming over to you and you've got to try and do better than you did last year. So I'm sure they'll still be hurting from the first round fixtures over at their place. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah, and just sticking with you, Armand, before going back to Shaun, how important is it for you guys to continue what you're doing in terms of focusing internally on what you're doing, especially where you find yourselves in the league? Because us in the media, we like to write storylines, like to write narratives and talk about title races, who's in the promotion battle, especially at this stage of the season. But for you guys internally, with all the fixtures that are going on around you, is it important for you just to try and concentrate on yourselves? And come 5 p.m. on a Saturday, then you can check the scores and see what happens elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, yes, we look at other teams' results and who are they playing away. I think it's natural for any club to do so. I think from our perspective, it's generally focused on us and how we can be the best team on the day. And I think that's a weekly cycle we'll go through. You look at last year's results, was the best results the club's ever had in its 101 years history. So I want to go one better, and the club wants to go one better. And everyone signed that shirt. It's on the wall of the club last year, and everyone wants a new shirt to take that place, to be the best senior section this club's ever had. And yeah, it's a very exciting period. I would say definitely we want to be top or second is the goal. If we can get promoted, it'll be fantastic. First, I mean, obviously there's different challenges if that does happen, but inevitably the players have earned it, and that's the important part. They've worked really hard for that. So if we are in a position to be lucky enough to get promoted from Nat 2 to Nat 1, that'll be fantastic for us.
I don't think anybody in an administration position at a club should not want to get promoted, because it's slightly disingenuous not to supporting the players or putting so much effort in. So of course you want that. Now that doesn't make us arrogant thinking we're going to. Is that as you mentioned earlier, the quality in National 2 East is ever increasing, and I'm always impressed by the quality of all sides, not just our own. So it's a tough ask, and there's lots of other people in the mix, but we certainly want to support the players in their aspirations, and we share them.
So a massive thanks to both Armand and Shaun for their time on Tuesday. Really interesting to hear another club use relegation and past experiences as a way of aligning themselves across the board, across the whole of their club. For those who tuned into last week's show, you would have heard Blackheath talk about something similar when they were relegated from National 1 into National 2 East, and they're a club thriving in the third tier at the moment. And as Shaun said, Dorking have learned from their past experiences and are very much benefiting from that in National 2 East. And both Shaun and Armand weren't shying away from their aspirations either, were they? Targeting a top 2 finish, maybe even promotion to National 1. But Dorking's next assignment is back at the big field where they host a Henley Hawks side who returned to winning ways in round 16 with a 17-12 Derby Day triumph over Oxford Harlequins. And both Dorking and Henley Hawks, they've had some really good contests between each other in recent times. So if you are in and around the Dorking area on Saturday, why not head to the big field to watch Dorking versus Henley, where I'm also told Dorking have the best chef in the league that has come from people at Dorking. So why not be the judge of it for yourself whilst also enjoying some National League rugby on Saturday afternoon. So what else have we got in store then in round 17 in National 2 East? Well, 13th place Colchester and Bury St Edmunds had tough afternoons last time out. Of course, we talked about that gut-wrenching loss for Bury St Edmunds against Dorking, but the injury list piled up for Colchester away at Old Albanian. So both clubs will be looking for a morale-boosting display in the East Anglian derby. Dorking versus Henley we have touched on, and Dorking may well have one eye on what happens between Guernsey and league leaders Tunbridge Judians. It's certainly one of the standout fixtures this weekend. TJs have been almost faultless this term, but 5th place Guernsey have won all 7 of their home matches this year. So when the table toppers were to depart the Channel Islands with a victory, it will be a huge hurdle negotiated for Seb Sherwood and Jordan Turner-Hall's Tunbridge Judians. And remember, round 5's meeting between these two went right to the wire, with Duncan Talt's try converted superbly by Tom White to clinch a late 38-37 win for Tunbridge Judians in that one. So more of the same, please, this weekend. Another side in the top 5, fourth place Canterbury, who have won 6 of their last 7 games. They came from behind to beat Guernsey 24-15 last time out and scored this stunning try in the process. So can the informed City men continue their momentum at 10th place? Haven't. 12th place Oxford Harlequins, who are 9 points clear of the bottom 2, entertain an informed Westcombe Park. David Marshall's side have won their last 4, including last week's 34-20 win against Hammond. So like Canterbury, can they continue their purple patch on the road? Elsewhere, Sevenoaks go up against Old Albanian. Oaks picked up a losing bonus point at 2nd place Barnes last week, as we've mentioned already, and they may have even got more, while OAs are going for a 3rd win on the spin. And lastly, despite some of their rivals going head-to-head this week, including Guernsey versus Tunbridge Judians, 2nd place Barnes will be purely focused on their task in hand away at bottom of the table, Worthing Raiders.